Hello and welcome to Whitman Partners Awards and Recognition Spotlight. This awards season, we are highlighting the 40 fast and future leaders of surgical services. For those of you who don't know, the 40 Fast Awards celebrates operating room managers and directors who have quickly risen to leadership rank. They demonstrate astute leadership skills and achievements that are worth recognizing. My name is Melissa Lee, Marketing Associate with Whitman Partners, and today we are joined by Monique Freymuth, the Pre-Op PACU Manager at St. Elizabeth's Medical Center in Brighton, Massachusetts. Welcome, Monique.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate that. So some of the creative solutions that I have used are, one, just finding people within the department who can be cross-trained. So like in peri-anesthesia, it's really helpful to have people who can work in pre-admit, pre-op, and phase 2 and PACU recovery. So giving them an opportunity to get comfortable in other areas that maybe historically they haven't been working in. I've also, when I was over endo, I cross-trained some of the nurses to work in the OR. So they did peri-op 101 and they were able to work into the OR. And then just some of I've had transporters and aides throughout the hospital who have come to me and said, hey, I want an opportunity to work. And so I've cross-trained them to be surgical aides, and they're amazing aides because, one, they've worked for the organization a lot of times for a number of years and just want an opportunity to do something different. And so I think just kind of using what you already have, what the resources you have. And then also, like, now I'm trying to use like a resource nurse, so an extra nurse who can go between both areas and help with like blocks and stuff like that. So just being a little more innovative with what you already currently have, and then keeping people within the organization. So if they reach out to you, give them an opportunity that historically may not have been a possibility.
That's great. Yeah, cross-training is absolutely better than trying to start from scratch and get a new person in there.
I think some of the tension points, quite honestly, are around staffing. If you don't have enough staff, you can't run your ORs, nothing really moves. And not only in the peri-op department, but on the units, a lot of the units have some staffing issues as well. So if we can't get patients from our PACU to the inpatient units, then it impacts our flow as well. So it's a big domino effect because now the surgeons can't get into the OR, there's delays and patients are dissatisfied. So I think that's a big issue with this year is just a lot of staffing issues. And I don't think it's one hospital per se, it's everywhere that we're finding this to be an issue right now. Well, I definitely think that business and financial management is an important part of our roles. It's important to understand what's going in and what's going out. I think as nurses, at least for myself, that's not something that's ingrained or that you're trained in. So a lot of it you have to like figure out as you go, or you have other mentors who will train you to learn that skill set. But you have to be very mindful of like your productivity, what the stat is, how you get that, all of that stuff. I think really is going to help your department run. And I think there is a different pressure on leaders because financially, the hospitals have taken a hit. So they look at your labor expenses and where you can reduce. And some of these, it's really hard, especially in like a union environment. You don't have that capability of like what they call flexing staff off. And you also don't really want to do that to people who are employed there and work full time. It's not a very good message, but at the same time, you do have to be responsible financially for your department. So it's just important to know what's going in and out. From everything from labor. Sometimes you'll see people hit your books that have never worked there before. And so, or I've had like linen expenses and I see people all over the hospital wearing our scrubs. And it's like, wait a minute, that's being expensed to us. So just being mindful of everything that goes in and goes out. So it's definitely a different time, I think, for sure.
Yeah, details for sure.
I think some growing pains, not so much, I guess maybe it happens a lot, but initially when I first started in leadership is just, you really have to take the moment to like stop and let the staff vent their frustrations and get to know them and do an assessment of the department versus you like go in and try to change everything. I think just being able to connect with people and having enough emotional intelligence to really get to understand them. One thing that I did for my department when we were really struggling on like trying to shift the culture was we all got together and worked on communication styles. So everybody was able to assess their communication styles. And it was really fun because they'd be like, oh, you're this or you're that. So everybody could identify like, hey, this is how I should approach this person. Maybe that'll be a little bit more effective versus the delivery or the method I was trying to use before. So just taking that time really to build the teams and get them to trust you. So I think some of the ways that the operating room can lose money is if, say, a case is we're not well prepared for it, or we haven't looked at, say, the pick sheet, something might have been open prior to talking with the surgeon, or we just get used to like always wanting certain things available to us that we may not necessarily need. I think in the peri-anesthesia department, what I find a lot of things, or not a lot of things, but something that could be wasteful that people may not think about is if a patient hasn't been like pre-admitted appropriately, if say they forgot to tell us something about their history and now day of surgery, we're looking at their medications and we realize they've been on a blood thinner, or they didn't have a medication list and something might have changed. So I think when you have cancellations, that costs the surgery department a lot of money, because again, then now you've opened the supplies, you've opened that equipment. The surgeon is now not doing a case, no one's doing anything. So that's a big loss to our revenue on that day of surgery. So if we could have a better process to work up those patients, I mean, there's going to be times where that just doesn't happen, and that it'll just happen regardless, but just looking at how we are getting our patients ready for surgery. I think, again, that goes back to nurses, say, who work in the ICU or the ER, who are, no longer wanting to work in those areas. We historically haven't really trained nurses to peri-anesthesia just because it's a specific like skill set, and it's essentially is an ICU. So a lot of those ICU nurses can translate a little bit better. So rather than losing them again, you'd cross-train them to our department. But you just really have to be creative on how you're getting nurses in. But I think a lot of it goes back to giving people the opportunity that may not have been there in the past. And there's not even in just ICU, but we have nurses in our hospital who are step-down nurses, mm-hmm. which our step-down is a very high acuity. So historically, they would never be able to work in a PACU because they don't have the ICU experience. So we've sent them to like an ICU consortium so they can get a little more comfortable with the ICU skills that they would need to have to manage patients in the PACU. And then we have a little bit longer of training that we give them. So it's just trying to be creative with what you have in order to retain those employees and then fill in the gaps when people are going to leave. So.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Monique, for your time and participation. And of course, congratulations again on being nominated. It's very exciting. Thanks, everyone. This is Melissa Lee signing off from Whitman Partners. Take care.